I made a decision to come back to Ukraine and fight.
Developing now at 10, the Ukrainian crisis, now a nuclear crisis, as many Ukrainians are returning to defend their homeland. Russian President Vladimir Putin has ordered Russia's nuclear weapons to be prepared for increased readiness to launch. Meantime, the Ukrainian president has vowed his country will stand its ground against the Russian invasion. Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Rob Took. Now, President Zelensky has agreed for a Ukrainian delegation to meet with Russian negotiators at the Belarus border. But tonight, hopes are not high. Now, a fierce battle is underway for control of Kyiv, the capital of Ukraine. Massive explosions have been reported in the city. Many have sought refuge in underground shelters. Others have taken to the streets with weapons to hold back the Russian forces. And around 200 Ukrainian civilians are estimated to have been killed. More than 1,000 have been injured in the Russian invasion. But those numbers are likely to go up. And Russian missile strikes are believed to have struck an oil depot south of Kyiv, setting off a massive fire and lighting up the sky with an orange glow. The explosion took place close to one of Kyiv's two airports, which the capture is vital to Russian takeover ambitions. About 200 tons of diesel fuel is burning tonight. And here's ABC's Rena Roy with the latest on today's attacks.
In a new video message, the president of Ukraine saying he doesn't believe there will be a breakthrough in talks with Russian negotiators as both sides prepare to meet at the Ukraine-Belarus border. This as intense fighting spreads to Ukraine's second largest city of Kharkiv, a children's hospital forced to move into a bomb shelter. Others across the country also finding shelter underground, hiding out in metro stations. The Russian attacks focusing on key infrastructure, with a massive fire burning south of Kyiv, lighting up the sky after an oil refinery was struck. Ukrainian military and civilian volunteers lining up to receive weapons to help protect the capital.
Kyiv is not only the symbol, it's our native city, and we want to make sure that the world knows that Russia's main target is right now to take the city.
Although outmanning Ukrainian troops, a senior defense official telling ABC that Russian troops have faced more resistance than anticipated, burning through supplies such as fuel faster than expected. Vladimir Putin ordering his military to put Russia's strategic deterrence forces in a state of heightened readiness, saying it's in response to what he called aggressive statements from NATO countries.
This is really a pattern that we've seen from President Putin through the course of this conflict, which is manufacturing threats that don't exist in order to justify further aggression.
Ukrainian officials calling for more military aid as they try to defend their country.
We need more defensive weapons because we are defending our country against a very strong enemy.
The U.S. and countries like Germany, Poland, and the Czech Republic are all sending weapons to help bolster their defenses.
Now, the U.S. and some European partners are now moving to block some Russian banks from the SWIFT system that facilitates foreign transactions. They're also targeting the Russian central bank. It's a major move that could lock up over $600 billion the Russian government has in savings abroad. Now, thousands are leaving their homes in Ukraine. This somber video tonight showing a line of cars gridlocked by the Polish border. People are walking in the snow to get out. Some are leaving without their fathers, brothers, and sons, who are staying behind to fight. Now, for the first time ever, the European Union will finance weapons to a country that is under attack. The top official in the European Union called it a watershed moment today at a press conference in Berlin, while announcing plans to finance and deliver arms to Ukraine. The EU's 27-nation bloc will also close its aerospace to Russian airlines and strengthen sanctions against the Kremlin and its ally, Belarus President Alexander Lukashenko. And tonight, liquor stores across the U.S. and in Canada are showing their support for Ukraine by boycotting Russian vodka. Hundreds of liquor stores and bars are removing Russian vodka and other Russian-made alcoholic beverages from their shelves in protest of Moscow's invasion of Ukraine.
We're not carrying it because I don't want to look at it, and we don't want to look at it because we stand with Ukraine.
And so far, political leaders in Ohio, Utah, New Hampshire, and Texas have called on liquor stores to remove Russian brand or Russian-made products from store shelves. And across Texas, Governor Greg Abbott has called on Texas retailers to do just that. The Texas Restaurant Association and Texas Package Stores Association both released statements tonight saying they stand with the people of Ukraine and will work to find alternatives to Russian products and remove Russian imports from their stores. ABC's Tahira Rahman shows us what's being done tonight.
As Russian rounds escalate in Ukraine, so too do sounds of support in Austin.
I just want my friends and my family to know we love them and we will do anything we can here to support you.
An effort local business owners are also joining.
We were all just kind of set back by what was going on. And
at the county line barbecue restaurants, you'll no longer find bottles of Smirnoff.
And so this is what we can do is something positive.
Owner Skeeter Miller typically orders about $50,000 to $75,000 worth of the Russian vodka, but not anymore.
I just found out tonight that there is a vodka from the Ukraine called KHOR, K-H-O-R, so we're going to reach out and buy some of that.
Miller said he started directing staff to pull everything Russian made off the shelves as soon as he saw the governor's tweet. And some others in Austin tell us they're doing the same.
Kick Butt Coffee is pulling their Russian vodka. Bob Woody, owner of more than 24 businesses, says he'll stop ordering as well.
Work hard to make sure that we have alternatives to what they're already using, and then really work with our suppliers.
The Texas Restaurant Association says they secured about $180 million during the special session for the industry. They hope to roll out funds next quarter as businesses ditch product.
I really work with restaurants to make sure that the economic impact is not on top of what they've already been facing in the pandemic.
Now that was Tahira Rahman reporting. It is also important to note many of the top-selling vodka brands that trace their origins to Russia are now distilled in multiple countries, including the United States. And anti-war demonstrators and supporters of Ukraine are gathering in large cities, like at this rally in Houston. The message is the same. They're standing in solidarity with Ukrainians abroad. And some Ukrainians living in Houston shared what they are going through with their relatives and friends still in Ukraine.
Seeing my friends and relatives who I grew up with, it's very tough.
The last time I heard from them about seven hours ago. Yeah, because during the night is the most difficult time, so it's no connections with them during the night at least. So wherever I call, I keep hearing the bombs. You know, we keep hearing the lights up everywhere. It's
And Russians in cities spanning from Moscow to Siberia have taken to the streets again on Sunday. Today, to protest Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Demonstrators marched in city centers chanting "No to war." In St. Petersburg, dozens gathered in the city center, but police in riot gear grabbed many protesters and dragged them to police vans, even though the demonstration was peaceful. And to stay up to date with the invasion of Ukraine, sanctions against Russia, and the impact this will have on American energy production, just head to our website, yourbasin.com. Sheriff's deputies responding to a car crash in Fort Bend County shot and killed one of the drivers involved. The sheriff's office said on Saturday after the car crash, one driver refused to give his information. The driver took off, but deputies pulled him over again. During the traffic stop, a struggle ensued. A taser was used moments before shots rang out.
When he did eventually come out of the vehicle, he ran at officers with a knife, and officers returned fire.
The Fort Bend Sheriff's Office also said another deputy accidentally shot himself. That deputy is expected to be okay. The Texas Rangers are now investigating tonight. A lot closer to home, taking a live look from our Midland Tower camera tonight. It's cold, it's clear, but things are looking up for this upcoming week. ABC Big 2's Bridget Sarpong is in the Weather Center tonight with a check on our forecast.
Now, your Big 2 forecast first.
That's right, Rob. I'm here and I'm happy because it was a happy Sunday in the basin, only because it was a sunny Sunday in the basin. Before that sun went down, temperatures were pretty nice, but right now with that wind, very calm. It does feel like everything in the 30s, definitely not too bad whatsoever. But taking a look earlier at what we do have going on, when we come back, we will see that we won't be in our 30s for too long. And I have more of that forecast later on the show. Back over to you, Rob.
Well, thank you, Bridget. Hundreds of 18-wheelers are making their way to the nation's capital, but not before stopping in the Panhandle. The group's message, next. Today capped off a busy weekend on the Diamond here in the Basin. We've got baseball highlights coming up. And sponsors are dropping PGA champion Phil Mickelson for comments he made about a new potential golf league. The latest event to shut Mickelson out. Find out after the break.
Locals know the best way to control expensive water costs is to install their own water well. Since 1981, the JR's Water Well Service Team has been serving the Permian Basin, providing bids and same-day service calls you can trust for residential and commercial water wells. Our customers describe us as outstanding and professional, with a quick response time and expert knowledge. Trust the JR sticker seen all over West Texas. Call today for quick bids, same-day service, and to receive the Big 2 10% off anything offer.
Do you have back pain in the morning? I understand. After having scoliosis surgery myself, I searched everywhere for the right mattress. You know, pain will make you do that. So let's try to fix that for you with the new Anniversary Heirloom mattress. The patented Heirloom Lift with pocketed flex coil is made to lift your body and all your pain points. The Anniversary Heirloom mattress, made in the USA and only found exclusively in Bob Mills Sleep Spa. Let's get you out of pain.
Bob Mills Sleep Spa.
You want to feel important, to be a part of something bigger, something that matters and can help change things.
We know. We felt that way too.
And that's why we joined the Army National Guard. Take on your legacy.
Visit nationalguard.com to find out more.
Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick.
The principles and values they learned in a one-room schoolhouse are still true today. That's why I passed a bill to ban the teaching of critical race theory and stop boys from playing girls' school sports. As we learned in this schoolhouse, the keys to a good education are great teachers and involved parents. I will always fight for great teachers and for parents' views to be heard and respected.
Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick, endorsed by President Donald Trump.
I am giving him my complete and total endorsement.
Get ready for your day with meteorologist Ryan DePhillips. Your weather authority. We warn you first.
Happy Sunday, friends. Today's temperature is not bad for the basin. Speaking of temperatures, take a look at the temperature change that we do have this same time yesterday. We have increased. Minus our friends down in Presidio, where they're sitting at a cool 2 degrees cooler than yesterday. Marfa 9 degrees cooler, but our friends in Midland and Odessa 9 degrees warmer. Big Spring 6 degrees warmer, and Seminole 7 degrees warmer as well. But taking a look at our almanac, speaking of how close we were, give me a second, my mic, you guys. It's clipping a little bit. Today's highs, a high of 58 degrees. Today we were warm because there were no clouds in the area. However, not as warm as how we're used to at 67 degrees. Warm today, but not as warm as how we were back in 2011 when we were sitting at a nice and steamy 84 degrees. Our lows did come pretty short, sitting in the teens, waking up at 19 degrees today. Usually around this time in February, really close to March, we're definitely used to 40-degree temperatures. Today, a couple degrees warmer than how we were back in 1934 when we were only sitting at a cool 17 degrees. Definitely not too bad whatsoever. Today's high temperature for the basin pretty much set in the upper 50s to upper 60s. We have Big Spring sitting at 59 degrees, Seminole 58 degrees. Our friends down south in Presidio, always nice and warm, sitting at a nice and steamy 67 degrees, Marfa 61, and even El Paso sitting at 65 degrees. Definitely not too bad whatsoever. Now, as we continue on into the evening, temperatures will will begin to cool on down, not staying in the 30s, but making their way into the 20s at 26 degrees. Mostly calm and clear skies for the basin. Perfect enough. Take a look at the stars. You won't need a blanket tonight, only because it's going to be warm. Now, as we make our way into the star of the week for Monday, we'll have a high of 27 degrees, and then we warm on up to 4 p.m. at 66 degrees, and then we cool on down to 50 degrees by 9 p.m. So not bad whatsoever. We'll take what we can get. A start to the week, not bad at all. Our winds very calm right now, and they will remain calm into Monday, but there will be a point in time when we will reach our double digits around 1 p.m. That's when we will be sitting, at 12 miles per hour in Midland Odessa, 10 miles per hour in Wink, and then we cool on down with our temperatures. Yes, our temperatures do cool down along with our winds into Tuesday. That's when we go back into single-digit temperatures for our winds, and not only that, but we actually increase a little bit when it comes to our pollencaster for the tree pollen portion, sitting at a moderate level, and then our grass, our weeds overall sitting at a low level. So definitely not too bad whatsoever. We can take what we can get and make the most of it. Morning time, we will be waking up in our 20s, sunny and warming up. Our winds very calm for tomorrow, 5 to 10 miles per hour, and that 7-day forecast is going to show that we're not going to stay in our 20s for too long. We actually make it to a nice and dry 66 degrees. We'll stay in our 60s until Tuesday, and then that's when we get on up into our 70s, and then Friday sitting pretty warm at 79 degrees, so not bad at all.
I think we're reaching that optimal range where the weather is perfect. It's nice, it's cool, it's clear. Bridget, I want to say thank you for bringing the sunshine.
I'm trying with this big old smile.
Thanks so much. Well, the so-called People's Convoy is making its way through the Texas Panhandle and into Oklahoma tonight. The convoy is protesting pandemic mandates across the nation. And with more than 1,000 truckers, the People's Convoy is on its way to Washington, D.C. The convoy comes on the heels of a separate convoy in Canada protesting COVID-19 mandates. Here's ABC's Jack Kessler with the latest video from Amarillo.
But on a global scale, this is a global issue, and we're standing up as citizens of the world to protect our God-given human rights.
Hundreds of people lined I-40 as the People's Convoy rolled through Amarillo to protest the continuation of pandemic mandates and the national emergency.
We're coming across I-40, and Texas said, hey, come on in, we want to see you. So we came on in to see everybody. The outpouring of support has been amazing. God bless Texas.
According to the People's Convoy, they are demanding the declaration of national emergency concerning the COVID-19 pandemic be lifted immediately. Founding member for Panhandle Texans for Medical Choice, Ryan Brightbill, who helped welcome the People's Convoy Saturday, says it's time to lift the mandates as it's had an adverse impact on the nation.
Our organization believes that a medical decision such as a vaccine should be between a doctor and a patient, not from government bureaucrats in Washington, D.C.
A local resident who attended Saturday's event, Scott Davis, says the People's Convoy is all about freedom of choice.
My body, my choice really comes down to that, period. And to have something forced upon you is not the American way.
And the People's Convoy has raised more than $800,000, with all that money going towards supporting the convoy, with funds going towards reimbursing fuel costs. The next stop for them is Elk City, Oklahoma. And we're joined now by Avi carr-gloth with sports. Avi, these full days of baseball are happening a lot more.
Yeah, well, while Major League Baseball, their season is still up in the air, hanging in the balance, right here in West Texas, college games are well underway. The warmest day of the weekend. It was a beautiful day to get some bats warmed up, and there were some big swings all over today. Let's start in Odessa. The OC Wranglers hosting Weatherford College. Top of the 7th, up 4-0. Fly ball hit hard to center field, and Tucker Gideon, he now is a warrant out for his arrest after stealing a hit. He bangs into the metal wall. Takes a moment to gather himself. There you go, Tucker. Nice play. There, he'll end up on SportsCenter. Hey, bottom half of the same inning, Liam McDonald tattoos a ball to deep center, hits the top of the batter's eye in center. McDonald, meanwhile, he's hustling, he's sliding, and he's into third. A lead-off triple for Liam McDonald. And then Just 2 batters later, Gideon, the guy who caught the ball at center, he's going to bounce a double to right field. And look, him getting a hit, it's like winning a new car right after stealing someone else's. McDonald comes around to score. Wranglers shut out Weatherford in this one, and they would win 2 out of 3 in the weekend series. Over in Midland, the NC Chaps playing Dodge City Community College, down 2-0 in the first inning. Ball gets away from the catcher with 2 runners on, and a bad throw to second, and Tyler Wolfert comes in to score the Chaps' first run of the game. A couple batters later, Chris Garcia is going to push a hit to right, and Caleb Hurts scores to tie the game at 2. Chaps with a nice 2-out rally. Following that, as they would go on to load the bases, Ryan Blackwell, he'll take that ball for it, and he'll take that RBI. Gets the RBI walk right over to first. Jabrian Pena comes in for the go-ahead run. Next batter, Frainer Chavez lifts the ball to shallow right. That'll get down. 2 runs will score. Garcia and Luke Bumpus, they come home. Chaps would take the lead 5-2. They would lose this game, however, 13-10, but they would split the doubleheader. And the UTPB Falcons, they were also in action today in Midland, facing undefeated West Texas A&M. Parker Buys on the bump for the Falcons. Grabbed that easy liner there. He went 6 innings for the Falcons. Jack Egan was also dealing, though, for the Buffs, striking out Gabriel Moore to lead off the 3rd. Next batter, though, Garrett Thornton. He wouldn't bite. He's going to reach base on a 1-out walk. This would set up one of the few scoring opportunities for the Falcons today. Oswaldo Godina hits a fly ball deep center. Center fielder, he's going to miss the ball, and then all of a sudden, the Falcons have runners on 2nd and 3rd with just 1 out. But Egan settled down, and first he gets Pedro Astacio chasing one right out of the strike zone for strike 3, and then Marcus Johnson with a ball down low. Egan strikes out 9 in 5 innings, and the Falcons are shut out and get swept in their doubleheader. Take a look at this. Jackie Robinson's 1947 debut ticket stub with the Brooklyn Dodgers sold for a whopping $480,000 this weekend. Not pictured, but the ticket stub for Michael Jordan's 1984 debut with the Chicago Bulls, that sold for $468,000. And Phil Mickelson's controversial comments about the PGA Tour and organizers of a Saudi Arabian-backed breakaway league continue to create some backlash. The 6-time major champion will no longer serve as a host of the American Express event in La Quinta, California. On Friday, Callaway Golf paused its relationship with Mickelson, while Workday ended its sponsorship with him. 2 other sponsors cut ties with Mickelson earlier in the week.
I don't think they even get it. Oh my goodness. Stop. Sit.
Well, don't you hate when this happens? In the final round of the Honda Classic, Lee Hodges brought out his putter on the 15th hole after his ball landed in the bunker. It's not something you see every day, but Hodges did the best he could in an unusual situation. Hodges then used his regular club to hit the ball out of the rough grass before missing a putt. So good weather coming for golf, good weather obviously for baseball. Rob, still we don't know the status about Major League Baseball, but at least we got some good action on the diamond right here in West Texas.
I absolutely agree with you, Avi. It's good to see college baseball underway. I want spring training to resume. I want to see those exhibition games.
We'll get started first. You can't resume until it gets started.
Oh, yes, sir, absolutely. And until they solve those labor disputes, I guess.
Hope so. Let's see.
Right. Yes, sir. Well, thank you, Avi. Appreciate that. And coming up tonight, just after the break, the #1 killer of American woman. The warning signs of heart disease and what a cardiologist tonight now recommends you start doing.
Texas is a very, very special place, and we're going to keep it the way it is.
That's why President Trump's backing Kevin Sparks for Texas Senate. Trump says Sparks will defend our border and keep Texas strong.
What we cherish today can be gone tomorrow. I'm Kevin Sparks. We can't surrender our southern border. Biden won't step up, Texas must.
Conservative Kevin Sparks.
I am giving him my complete and total endorsement.
The Vineyard, Midland's premier master planned community, impeccable high-end luxury with resort-style amenities. These Silverleaf homes are located close to Green Tree Country Club and are walking distance to Faskin Elementary. Contact Alexa to schedule your private showing.
Purchase your tickets today and break away from the screen on Friday, March 4th at 7 p.m. to experience world-class live magic like never before with champions of magic at the Ector Theater, located in downtown Odessa. Tickets are available at www.theactor.com or by phone at 432-643-1246.
Initial measurement is complete.
Begin go, no-go terminal count. Sys 1.
Go.
Sys 2.
Go.
Hold the launch. We're missing supplies.
Ma'am, there's a vehicle approaching the launch pad.
Right on time. Order for George? Thanks, partner. We can't orbit on an empty stomach.
Are you ready for your life to begin?
You're going to Hollywood!
American Idol returns tonight on ABC and stream on Hulu.
Watch Good Morning Basin from 5 to 7 on ABC Big 2.
New at 10 tonight, heart disease in women is a leading cause of death. It can lead to heart attacks, strokes, diabetes, and shorter lifespans. ABC's Katie Orth spoke with the cardiologist tonight about the warning signs to look out for.
Heart disease is the #1 killer in the nation. In particular, it's the #1 killer in women as well.
February is dedicated to recognizing that shocking statistic. Dr. Pitts with ADCA says being aware of your risk of heart failure is key.
Heart disease and cardiovascular disease in general also includes even hypertension, which is a strong risk factor for heart disease.
Other risk factors include diabetes, obesity, high blood pressure, among others.
Sometimes we hear about, chest pain. That's sort of the classic, or pressure in your chest. But for women, it can be pretty atypical. It can be just shortness of breath. It can be fatigue. It can be nausea. It can be just breaking out into a sweat.
Dr. Pitt says those symptoms usually happen when you're exercising or doing something physical.
Yeah, I think there's a big misconception that heart disease is a sort of a man's disease, but that's not true at all. I had a patient in her early 40s, healthy, hiking, was having just shoulder discomfort. She thought it was from her backpack and it was sore. And then she ended up coming into the emergency room because it wasn't getting any better, and she had a heart attack.
Dr. Pitt's message, it can happen to women and young, healthy women. So how to keep a healthy heart? The American Heart Association has 7 simple steps. Managing blood pressure, controlling cholesterol, and getting active are some of the most important ones.
That was Katie Orth reporting, and still ahead, landmarks lit up tonight in solidarity with Ukraine. We go around the world for a look. And as we head to break, a reminder that if you see news happening, share your videos and photos on social media with us. Make sure you use the hashtag ABC Big 2 News. And if you haven't done it yet, follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. We are ABC Big 2 News.
ABC Big 2 Sports, brought to you by Glasheen Vaez and Enderman Injury Lawyers.
Want a plan that can help you save on electricity when you use it most? Give Pick Your Free from Reliant a shot. Choose free electricity on flex days, weekends, or nights. Now powered by 100% solar energy. And you can track your free electricity with the Reliant app. Pick your free and score free electricity when it counts. Reliant, that's power. Your way.
Ring in the new year with Music City Mall. Put those gift cards and Christmas checks to work at more than 100 merchants. You'll find something for everyone. Beautiful Kendra Scott jewelry inside Dillard's. Fashion for every occasion. Shoes galore. Enjoy delicious food inside our food court. Or skate the all-new Rink and Roll roller rink open daily. Round out your visit with a trip to Sephora at JCPenney. Music City Mall, where you have it all. JBS and 42nd Street, Odessa.
Air Force pilot Aaron KINSEY took an oath to defend the Constitution against all enemies. And he flew 120 combat missions over Iraq and Afghanistan, fulfilling that oath. Now, Aaron KINSEY has another mission, defeating the liberal activists pushing a destructive critical race theory in our schools and returning control to parents. Veteran, conservative, patriot, Aaron KINSEY for State Board of Education.
Repeat after me. Apple, table, penny.
Apple. Bread.
I remember watching Dad with the kids and thinking, geez, in 6 years, will he even know who they are?
Ask me again.
1 in 10 Americans over 65 has Alzheimer's disease. Learn more today at brightfocus.org.
Tonight, with a look across the world. This video here is of Niagara Falls. Different landmarks are lit up in blue and yellow colors, the color of the Ukrainian flag that looks a little bit red, but of course it's supposed to be yellow, a sign of support and unity of the Ukrainian people. This image here is of the Seattle Great Wheel, and in New York, a projection artist projected "Stand with Ukraine" and the country's flag on a wall of the UN headquarters. The Eiffel Tower in Paris was lit up in the national blue and yellow colors of Ukraine at the request of the Paris mayor. And then there's this. Tonight, a steady trickle of Russians at Ukraine's embassy in Moscow. Those Russians voicing shame, anguish, even hopelessness about an invasion they do not support. People who came by offered their apologies to Ukrainians, some leaving flowers opposite the embassy as barricades blocked it off. Other well-wishers have left signs reading "Forgive us." Now, all those items were thrown away shortly after they left. It was just one of the several surreal scenes in a city where police have cracked down on anti-war sentiment. We'll be right back.
As the president prepares for his biggest moment yet, News Nation is taking the pulse of the country. From the economic squeeze at home to our troops near harm's way, News Nation has special live team coverage, the State of the Union, starting Tuesday at 8/7 Central on News Nation. Abrams, 9 o'clock, telling it like it is, now at a new time.
Here's where I'm coming from. Here's what I'm thinking.
Dan Abrams live at his new time, 9/8 Central, starting tomorrow on News Nation. News for all America.
A fresh start begins with fresh choices, like choosing to save more with Suddenlink. Get reliable, high-speed 1 gig internet for just $49.99 a month. With it, you'll get a $200 Visa prepaid card, HBO Max included on us for 1 year, and a free Suddenlink stream with your favorite shows and streaming apps all in one device. Choose to start fresh by saving more on our fastest speed. Plus, as part of optimum flexibility from Suddenlink, there are no contracts or hidden fees. And unlock even more value when you combine with Optimum Mobile. Visit suddenlink.com today.
What has your debit card been doing for you lately? Is it earning you any money? How about rewards? Because with the Kasasa Rewards checking account at MTCU, every swipe on qualifying transactions earns you cash and rewards. For added convenience, cardholders have access to over 30 free ATMs throughout the Permian Basin. We also refund a portion of monthly ATM fees to our qualifying Kasasa members. Stop by one of our branches and find out how you can earn money back by opening your Kasasa Rewards checking account. MTCU, your partner in lending, your partner in life.
Let's take one last look at that 7-day forecast. Today set us up for some spring-like temperatures. Tomorrow is going to be a sunny Monday. We're going to start off the day at 26 degrees. Then we warm up to a dry 66 degrees. And then Tuesday we get in our 60s. And then Wednesday is when we actually start increasing to our 70s. Rob and Avi, I'm excited because even Friday we're going to reach a high of even possibly 80 degrees. Isn't that really close? 79, 80, it sounds kind of similar to me.
Bridget, I think Avi and I and you too, we all need to go outside during work and play play some catch or something. We're talking about all this baseball. It's perfect weather to go outside.
Go watch some baseball. Go play some catch.
Go play some catch.
It's my kind of afternoon.
Something I want to do. Well, that's all the time we have for news tonight. Thank you so much for joining us. We have Good Morning Basin starting at 5 o'clock tomorrow morning. Good night.